Samantha Rose didn't believe in fairy tales. She knew what it meant to be abandoned, forgotten, left behind by the people who should have loved her most. Caleb Hartman had everything: wealth, fame, a world that bent at his feet. But all he wanted was to disappear and to be touched by something real. In a town where no one knew his name, he found her, the girl who didn't care who he was. One dinner, one dance, one kiss in the rain, and one night that changed everything. But when secrets rose with the morning sun, she vanished. This wasn't just a love story, it was a reckoning. And the billionaire who thought he'd seen it all was about to lose the one thing he never knew he needed. The morning sun in Millbrook always rose slow, like it wasn't sure it wanted to show up for this forgotten little town. Samantha Rose tied her apron around her waist, the threads old and worn. Her name tag sat slightly crooked on her chest. No one ever noticed. No one ever cared enough to look closely. At 7 a.m. sharp, the bell over the diner door jingled. The same sound every day, same tired faces, same stale jokes, same black coffee and scrambled eggs. Samantha moved like muscle memory. Pour, smile, nod, refill. Her hands were quick, but her heart was tired. She wasn't just another waitress. Not really. At night, when the world turned quiet and her aunt's TV buzzed in the background, Samantha opened her old secondhand laptop. Fingers flying across the keys, she spilled pieces of her soul online, under a fake name, Firefly Soul. Her poems spoke of feeling invisible in a world that only saw loudness. They were about the sting of being forgotten by your own parents, and the echo of that pain in every corner of your life. She had over 200,000 anonymous readers, but no one in town had a clue. Her Aunt Marla was a heavy smoker with a heavier tongue. She didn't ask about Samantha's life, and Samantha didn't offer it. "You better not get any stupid ideas," Marla had said once, pointing a cigarette at her. "You ain't going nowhere special. Girls like us don't get fairy tales." But Samantha wasn't after a fairy tale. She just wanted a place to belong. At 10, her life had changed. Her parents, once poor artists, had sold a screenplay and moved to Los Angeles. They told her she'd be staying with Aunt Marla just for a while. They never came back. Sometimes they sent postcards, beautiful ones with palm trees and red carpets. But never an apology, never a visit. That pain sat at the center of her chest like a locked door. No one was allowed past it, so she kept her world small. Work, writing, silence. And then he walked into Rosie's. It was a Thursday. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Samantha was pouring coffee for old Joe when the bell rang. A man stepped in, tall and broad, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans that looked too clean for Millbrook. His eyes were hidden under the cap, but something about his walk, slow, calm, in control, made her spine straighten. He slid into the booth by the window, alone, quiet. Samantha walked over with her notepad. "Coffee?" she asked, avoiding eye contact. "Please," came a voice so smooth it could have been a melody. She poured the cup. Their hands didn't touch, but she felt something in the air. A pause, a shift, a strange electricity that made her fingers tremble, just slightly. She turned to walk away when he spoke again. "Your name tag's crooked." Her eyes flicked to it, surprised. He had looked. Actually looked at her. "Guess it doesn't matter much," she mumbled. He smiled, just barely. "Everything matters if someone's paying attention." Samantha blinked. Nobody had ever said something like that to her, not at Rosie's, not in Millbrook, not ever. That night, she didn't write poetry. She stared at a blank screen, thinking about a man whose name she didn't know, and how somehow he'd already found a crack in the wall she had spent years building. The next morning, he was back. Same booth, same calm presence. He read a book while waiting, not on his phone, not pretending to be someone, just being. "Back again?" she asked, a little less guarded. "Good coffee." "Better view," he replied, eyes meeting hers. Something skipped inside her. He didn't flirt. He didn't act like a man used to attention, but there was a quiet weight in his gaze, like he saw parts of her no one had even tried to notice before. By the fourth day, she knew his name, Caleb. By the fifth, she learned he liked his eggs soft, toast dry, and he always left a 100% tip. By the sixth, she noticed how the light caught the scar near his jaw, just beneath his beard. By the seventh, she realized she was writing poems about a man with gray eyes and mystery in his voice. She didn't know he was a billionaire. She didn't know he owned half the buildings she walked past on her way to work. All she knew was this. For the first time in years, she was afraid to be invisible, because now someone had actually seen her, and that was both beautiful and terrifying. The world knew Caleb Hartman as the tech tycoon who turned code into an empire. His face had been on the cover of Forbes before he turned 30. He dated models, signed billion-dollar deals, and lived in a Manhattan penthouse wrapped in glass. But none of that felt real anymore. He had smiled at flashing cameras, given rehearsed speeches, and listened to investors flatter him like trained parrots. And still, every night, he lay awake in silk sheets feeling utterly alone. So he vanished. No press release. No assistant. Just a handwritten note left on his marble countertop that read, "Gone. Don't call. Don't follow." He ditched the tailored suits and private jets, shaved unevenly, threw on a hoodie, a cap, jeans and boots that hadn't seen dirt in years. Then he drove across states in an old Ford pickup he bought online under a fake name. And that's how he landed in Millbrook, a town so small it felt like time forgot it. His money couldn't follow him here. Neither could his past. He wasn't Caleb Hartman, the empire in Millbrook. He was just Caleb, the stranger with road dust on his tires and silence in his eyes. The first morning, he parked outside Rosie's Diner, a faded red and white building that smelled of bacon grease and old memories. Inside, he chose the booth by the window, the one where the morning sun softened everything. And that's when he saw her. She wasn't the kind of beautiful you find on runways or magazine covers. She was the kind of beautiful that crept up on you, quiet, grounded, and real. Dark honey hair tied back in a messy braid, faded jeans, a tired but kind expression. Her name tag read Samantha. Her voice was steady. Her smile didn't stretch too far, and her eyes never lingered longer than needed. She wasn't trying to charm anyone, especially not him. That alone made his heart take notice. "Coffee?" she asked, her tone polite but uninterested. He nodded. "Please." She poured without comment. No fake laugh, no flirting, no wide eyes trying to place his face. "No. Aren't you that billionaire from New York?" It was refreshing, strange, addictive. He looked around. Not a single person even glanced his way. No one whispered. No one pulled out a phone to take a picture. For the first time in years, Caleb Hartman wasn't the center of attention. And for the first time in years, he didn't want to be. Samantha returned with his eggs and toast. "You visiting someone?" she asked out of basic politeness. "Number just passing through." "Millbrook's not much of a destination," he smiled. "Maybe that's the point." She gave a small nod, then walked off to refill another customer's mug. He watched her, not in a creepy way, but in the way a lonely soul watches light through a cracked door. The next morning he came back. This time she raised an eyebrow. "You lost or just really like my terrible coffee?" He laughed, and it was a real one, the kind that surprised even him. "Maybe both," he said. By the third day, she started calling him mysterious stranger. It wasn't flirtatious, more like a joke between two people who weren't ready to be friends, but couldn't help starting something anyway. "You've got the whole broody loner thing going," she told him once, smirking. "You from a soap opera?" He grinned. "Something like that." Samantha was sharp, a little sarcastic, and never tried to guess his story. She didn't ask about work, money, or the world outside Millbrook. She just treated him like a regular guy who liked eggs over medium and black coffee with a splash of cream. And that's exactly what he needed. The truth was, Caleb hadn't come to Millbrook just to hide. He had come searching for something he couldn't name. He had grown tired of being wanted for his name, his fortune, his influence. But here, with Samantha's dry humor and unbothered attitude, he felt human again. Seen, not worshipped. Heard, not handled. Every day she showed him small kindnesses. A second napkin, a joke under her breath, a poem scrawled in the corner of the specials board she didn't think anyone noticed. But he noticed everything about her. There was a sadness beneath her smile, a storm in her softness. He recognized it because it matched the one inside him. At night, he sat in the quiet cabin he had rented just outside town, staring at the fire, replaying their conversations in his mind. He Googled her once, but stopped halfway through. It felt wrong. He didn't want to know her like that. He wanted her to tell him who she was, if she ever chose to. Still, he wondered, what pain hid behind her eyes? What made her heart cautious? She was like a locked garden, and he didn't dare force the gate. But oh, how he wanted to be let in. He hadn't touched her, not once, but he felt it, the invisible thread pulling them closer, day by day, word by word, silence by silence. And though the world knew Caleb Hartman as a man who could buy anything, he knew that the only thing he truly wanted now couldn't be bought. The sky above Millbrook had turned moody, painted in heavy grays and rolling thunderclouds. It was the kind of storm that didn't wait for permission. Bold, loud, wild. The kind that stripped the town clean, even if just for a night. Inside Rosie's diner, the lights flickered. The smell of burnt coffee lingered in the air as the last few customers rushed, so she wrapped her denim jacket tighter around her and stepped out into the storm. Cold, slicing rain slapped her cheeks. Her braid clung to her back like a vine, and the streets shimmered in silver under the flickering street lamps. She didn't complain. She didn't slow down. But halfway home, her right shoe snapped, the sole peeling like old wallpaper. She stumbled, cursing under her breath, and stood there, soaked to the bone, ankle throbbing. And that's when she heard it, tires rolling through puddles, the sound of an engine humming low. A pickup truck pulled up beside her. Caleb. He leaned out the window, water dripping from the edge of his cap. His eyes were shadowed, but soft. "Get in," he said. Not as a command, just an offer. Samantha hesitated. Every logical bone in her body told her to say no. But her heart, it whispered, "Go." She opened the door and climbed in. The warmth inside the truck wrapped around her like a blanket. She sank into the seat, suddenly aware of how soaked her clothes were. She avoided looking at him. He didn't speak. Neither did she. The truck moved slowly. His fingers relaxed on the wheel, his jaw tight like he was fighting the urge to say something. Then, without a word, he made a turn away from the road that led to her house. "Where are we?" "I want to show you something," he said softly. She didn't argue. Something in his tone made her trust him. It wasn't about control. It was about sharing. He pulled up near the edge of a field. Long grass danced in the wind, and above it, in the darkness, tiny golden lights flickered. Fireflies, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Samantha gasped quietly. It looked like the stars had fallen from the sky and decided to live here, in this forgotten place. Caleb shut off the engine. They sat in silence, the soft drumming of rain on the roof, the glow of nature just outside the window. "Fireflies don't last long," he said finally, staring out into the night. "But they don't care. They still shine anyway." Samantha's throat tightened. "Is that what you feel like? Something that won't last?" He looked at her then, really looked. His gray eyes weren't cold tonight. They were wounded, human. "No," he said, "but I'm tired of being what people expect. I'm tired of being used. Everyone wants a piece of me, but no one really wants me." She swallowed hard. His words echoed something deep inside her, something she hadn't spoken aloud in years. "I know how that feels," she whispered. "I used to think I wasn't worth keeping. My parents left me behind like I was luggage they forgot to pick up. Even now I wonder if anyone sees me beyond the surface." Caleb turned in his seat. "I do." The words fell between them like lightning, quiet but powerful, changing everything. She looked at him, hair dripping, cheeks flushed from cold and emotion. Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. She didn't need to. He reached for his coat, took it off, and wrapped it around her shoulders. His hands brushed her arms gently, not possessively, tenderly. And then it happened. Caleb leaned in, slow, almost unsure. Samantha didn't pull away. Their lips met. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It was the kind of kiss that happens when silence says more than words. When two people realize they've both been aching for something real and they've just found it. His hand rested gently on her cheek, thumb tracing her jaw, her fingers curled into the collar of his hoodie, needing something to hold on to. Not because she was falling, but because she wasn't anymore. The kiss deepened, but never lost its softness. It wasn't about desire. It was about recognition. A moment that said, I see you. I feel you. I'm not going anywhere. When they pulled apart, the fireflies were still glowing. The rain had softened to a whisper. Neither of them said anything. They didn't have to. Something between them had shifted, cracked open like the sky above, a door that couldn't be closed again. Caleb reached out and took her hand. She let him. No labels, no promises, just fingers laced together in the dark. Two hearts beginning to beat in rhythm, under the storm, under the stars, in a moment they would never forget. The day had a softness to it, the kind of golden quiet that felt like a beginning and an ending all at once. Samantha turned 18 that morning, not that anyone noticed. Her aunt grunted a happy birthday over burnt toast. No cake, no hugs, no card, no warmth. But somehow she didn't feel forgotten, not this time, because tucked deep inside her pocket was a folded note, written in slanted ink. Tonight, 7:30, wear something that makes you feel like you. See, no signature needed. She read it 3 times during her shift, a blush warming her cheeks every time. For once, she didn't feel invisible. At 6:45 p.m., she stood in front of the cracked mirror in her tiny bedroom, fingers trembling as she zipped up a simple black dress she had found in a thrift store months ago, but never worn. She left her hair down, soft waves brushing her collarbone. No makeup, just her. She didn't want to be anyone else tonight. Caleb's cabin was just outside town, hidden among tall pines and glowing under the soft golden spill of lanterns. She walked up the porch steps with her heart hammering so loud it echoed in her ears. When he opened the door, the world tilted slightly. He was barefoot, wearing dark slacks and a navy shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He smiled, not his usual guarded one, but something real, almost nervous. Inside, the room was bathed in candlelight. Shadows danced on the wooden walls. Music hummed gently from a record player. Slow, jazzy, old. On the table, homemade pasta, 2 glasses of wine, and a tiny birthday cake with one crooked candle. You cooked? She asked, stunned. Don't look so surprised, he said, laughing. I'm full of secrets. You've no idea, she murmured, but he didn't catch it. Dinner passed in quiet laughter, small bites, and long looks. He didn't overwhelm her. He didn't show off. He just was, calm, thoughtful, and fully present. When the plates were cleared, Caleb stood and extended his hand. Dance with me? There was no dance floor, just wood beneath their feet and candlelight around them. But Samantha nodded. Their bodies swayed gently, her head resting against his chest, feeling the slow rhythm of his heart. I've never had a birthday like this, she whispered. You deserve more, he said. So much more. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering with emotion. You still haven't told me everything about you. He paused on just for a second. I will, he said, but not tonight. Tonight's about you. And then he kissed her again. But this kiss was different. It was deeper, fuller, a little hungry, but not desperate. It said, thank you and please stay, and I see you, all in one long breath. When they pulled apart, Samantha didn't speak. She stepped back slightly, fingers tracing the line of his jaw. I want tonight to be mine, she whispered, voice soft but sure. All mine. Caleb didn't move. Are you sure? She nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. He led her to the bedroom, every step gentle, unhurried. There was no fire roaring in the hearth, no roses on the sheets, just warmth, safety, and truth. He kissed her again, slowly, reverently, as if each inch of her mattered. Her hands explored the contours of his shoulders, feeling muscle and breath and trust beneath her fingertips. Clothes fell away in whispers, not in a rush. They undressed each other like turning pages in a favorite book, wanting to savor every word, every curve, every pause. She had never done this before, but somehow she wasn't afraid, because it wasn't about the act. It wasn't about impressing or proving anything. It was about choosing. She chose him, not because of charm, not because of fantasy, but because he made her feel seen in a world that never looked close enough. Their bodies moved together with a quiet rhythm, like a slow-burning song meant only for them. There were no perfect lines, no practice moves, just two people learning each other's language through touch, breath, and silence. He kissed the inside of her wrist, her collarbone, the scar on her knee. She traced the scar on his side. He flinched. She didn't ask why. He didn't explain. But in that stillness, they understood each other. Afterward, wrapped in sheets that smelled of pine and skin, she lay in his arms, listening to the soft thump of his heartbeat under her cheek. Neither of them spoke for a long while. Then he said quietly, "I've never felt this kind of peace." She tilted her head to look at him. "Maybe it's because you finally stopped running." He stared at her, stunned, like she'd peeled back a layer he hadn't even known existed. And she smiled, not because she had won something, but because for the first time in years, she had finally taken something for herself. The night didn't end with fireworks. It ended with soft breathing, tangled fingers, and the warmth of two people who had finally let someone in. And somewhere deep inside her chest, that locked door began to open, just a little. She woke up alone in the bed. Caleb was outside talking on the phone, and she overheard everything. "Yes, I'll be back in New York by Friday. The girl? Just a nice break from fake socialites. She doesn't matter." Her heart shattered. She left without a word, leaving only her poetry notebook on the table. No note, no goodbye. Caleb came back in and realized she had heard him, and panicked. What she didn't know was, he had lied on that call to protect her. A paparazzi had been tracking him, and he was trying to throw them off her scent. But now, she was gone. 3 months later, Samantha's poetry had gone viral. Under her pen name Firefly Soul, she had published a book called The Night I Chose Myself. It told the story of a girl who gave her heart, only to realize it was her light that truly mattered. At her book signing in New York, Caleb appeared, this time in full billionaire form. Suit, cameras, and all. He waited in line like everyone else. When he reached her table, he said quietly, "I never stopped looking for you, and I didn't mean what you heard." Samantha stared at him. She didn't say a word. Then she got up and hugged him tight. Not out of forgiveness, but because she saw the truth in his eyes. The final message. They didn't return as a billionaire and his girl. They returned as equals, building schools, funding poetry programs, and fighting for kids of all races who felt forgotten like she once did. In a town that once judged people by color, class, or status, they proved that real love sees beyond all that. Sometimes the first kiss isn't the real beginning. The moment you choose your own worth, that's when your story truly begins.